Okay, we are still in topic 1, and 1.4 concentrates on sustainability. So, one of the things that we're going to talk about throughout the year with our systems is how we can maintain these systems to ensure that they are available for future generations. We'll also talk about sustainable development, which is meeting our present needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs as well. And there are environmental indicators that we can use to make sure we are living sustainably. And we will talk about ecological footprints and discuss the results that you got from your ecological footprint calculator to see if we are in fact living sustainably. We will look at environmental impact assessments and how they are used to make sure that our development is sustainable as well. All right, so the definition of sustainability is the use and management of resources that allows full natural replacement of the resources exploited and full recovery of the ecosystems affected by their extraction and use. So we want to use the resources that we need to make sure that we maintain our economic vitality, that we are maintaining our health and meeting our basic needs, while at the same time ensuring that we're not using these resources at a rate that they cannot be naturally replenished, and to make sure that our ecosystems can recover. All right, so sustainable development is when we are meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So we want to make sure that when we are building new towns, cities, infrastructure, building projects like dams, wind turbines, that the way that we construct these is in a way that ensures that they are sustainable in the future. All right, one way that we make sure that what we are doing is sustainable is that we aren't touching the natural capital. Natural capital are the resources that produce the natural income of goods or service that we can use. So an example of natural capital would be forests. Forests provide goods and services. Like goods would be the lumber, services would be protection from erosion and flood control. But we want to make sure that we are not overusing our forests at a rate that they cannot replenish. Kelp beds, mineral deposits, fisheries, fertile soil are all examples of natural capital. We can use these resources, but as long as it's at a rate that they can be replenished. Natural income is the yield that we obtain from natural capital. So the goods and services. So from a forest, I mentioned before, that would be the timber. From our cropland, our fertile soil, that would be the grains and the crops that we harvest. Services like water replenishment, erosion prevention are also things that we depend upon our resources for. Another example would be tropical seas. The goods from our tropical seas would be the fish that we catch. A service might be something like tourism. It's an aesthetic service. It's also an economic service to support an area. All right, so to see where we are now in terms of our resource use, our overshoot day this year was August 8th. That was the day that we used up our resources, our income. So now we are using the capital. So we're using more from nature than our planet could renew this year. So what that means is that we've used more of the resources and services than nature can regenerate. So that can be attributed to overfishing, overharvesting our forests, and even emitting more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere than our forests can sequester. Sequester is simply storing carbon. This information comes from overshootday.org. There's a lot of good information here, but you can each year check to see when our overshoot day is. As of right now, it would take about 1.6 Earths to meet our needs. If our overshoot day was December 31st, then it would take 1 Earth to meet our needs. So we need to figure out where the balance is, what we can do to push back our overshoot day. All right, some of the indicators that we use to see if we are living sustainably is, the first is biodiversity. It's important that we maintain biodiversity. This is one of the things that keeps our ecosystem stable in that steady state equilibrium. Pollution is an indicator. climate, air quality, water poverty, which is when you don't have enough access to fresh, clean water. GDP can be an indicator, and life expectancy. Our ecological footprint is the area of land and water that we need to sustainably provide the resources at the rate at which they are being consumed. So our ecological footprint now is over 1 Earth, so we are not living sustainably. We'll discuss the results that you got and compare our ecological footprint to those of some less economically developed countries. If the ecological footprint is greater than the area available to the population, then we're living unsustainably. All right, so in an ecological footprint, the land area that we're looking at is the land needed for growing crops and grazing animals, the land used for harvesting the timber, catching the fish, and even the land that is built up, our infrastructure, houses, transportations, our road systems. We also include the amount of land that's needed to absorb the carbon dioxide we're producing by burning our fossil fuels. In 2001, the UN created the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, which was a scientific appraisal of the condition and trends in the world's ecosystems, looking at the goods and the services, as well as what we need to do. What actions do we need to take to conserve and use them sustainably? And we'll take a closer look at some of these ecosystem assessments in some specific areas in class. But the general findings from this assessment was that 60% of our ecosystems have been degraded, 25% of our land surface has been cultivated, so we're getting close to our max on the amount of arable land that's available. We are using 40 to 50% of all available freshwater, and water withdrawals from underground sources has doubled over the past 40 years. So what is happening is our underground aquifers are shrinking. And one of the biggest examples of this is in the Midwest United States, where we are irrigating our farmland. Most of that water does come from groundwater sources. So if the groundwater aquifer is shrinking, then we are not living sustainably because we are not ensuring that that water is going to be available for future generations. Over 25% of our fish stocks are overharvested. Nutrient pollution has led to eutrophication, which has created dead coastal zones. So not only are we overfishing, but we are polluting our water to the extent that we have dead zones where no fish are available. Species extinction rates are anywhere from 100 to 1,000 times above the background rate, and most of that is due to degradation of ecosystems and habitats. Environmental impact assessments are studies that are done before a project is undertaken, and there's 3 parts of an environmental impact assessment. The first is to assess what the environmental, social, and economic impacts of the project would be. The second is to predict and evaluate those impacts. And the third is to suggest mitigation strategies for the project. Mitigation is a trade-off approach. For example, if you are building a road through a wetland, then there would be an agreement in place where you would have to restore a wetland elsewhere. So even though you are creating damage in one area, you're fixing another area. So it's a trade-off approach. And then these EIAs are usually followed by an audit and continued monitoring after the development has taken place. So what type of projects need EIAs? This would be an example. This is a wind turbine project in Wisconsin. We would need to know what the impact on the surrounding environment would be. Beach development in the United Arab Emirates. A pipeline through Eastern Africa, a new road system in the United Kingdom, and this is the Three Gorges Dam in China. These are all types of projects that would require an environmental impact assessment prior to development. The benefits of EIAs are that it provides the information that decision makers need in order to consider the environmental impact. If the impact is too great, they might either downsize the project or scrap it altogether. Criticisms is there's no standard practice or often no training for those that are doing the studies. A lack of a clear definition of system boundaries, like how far do you go away from the actual development to study? Um, and often there only the direct impacts are included and not the indirect impacts. And each country or region has different guidance on how to use EIAs. And we will look at a couple examples of these in class as well. All right, so in class, we're going to look at the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment and environmental impact statements to hopefully get a clearer idea of what those are and how they work.